Welcome to the Public Square from the American Policy Roundtable. I'm Wayne Shepherd. All guys here today. We've got Jeff Sanders, Rob Walgate, Alan C. Duncan, our producer, and Wayne Shepherd, and Dave Zanotti is here as well. Now, Dave, we had a long introductory conversation about the issue of sports gambling on our weekend program, which is on many of these stations and always online at thepublicsquare.com. And that served as an introduction. We just couldn't stop, could we? We've got to keep going with that conversation.
Yeah, and Wayne, I really do appreciate the folks who listen to this program. And I want to take a minute and just tell you that we have recreated an entire new website at thepublicsquare.com to help people who consistently grab us and say constantly, how can I share this program with more people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can always talk to them about the phone app. You can take them right to their phone if they've got an Apple phone and show them. You can log them into that site and get them that app in just a matter of seconds. It's very easy to do. And now some people don't have an Apple iPhone or they don't want an app on their phone. That's fine. Thepublicsquare.com brings it all together. And it's completely adaptable to your phone. So it doesn't matter whether you have the app or not. Just go to thepublicsquare.com and you'll find series of programs. It's a library. So people say all the time, I'd love to come to the American Mission Center. I would love to come to the William B. Allen Library and spend an afternoon. And we'd love to have you. But it's a long way for people coming from California or Alaska or Hawaii or Fort Myers. It's a haul. But you can come to thepublicsquare.com because that's a place too where we're all at and we commune together here. This is where we have these conversations. And it's there for you all the time. So we've got all kinds of different products here. We hope that you'll take these particular programs and get them to your friends, to your neighbors, to your church groups, wherever you find yourself. Connecting with people. There are people who are desperately struggling right now with gambling addictions. And these programs can help. And the reason it's important to try to take the risk, to take a step out and try, is because the gambling addiction is the one you can't see.
Yeah.
You can see people that are struggling with drugs. You can see people that are struggling with alcohol. You can see people who are struggling in the marijuana world and moving into greater drugs. You can see so many prescription drugs. You can see, you can smell, you can witness, you know. This is the one that sneaks up on you. And once it hits, it's too late. So this site at thepublicsquare.com, these programs on sports wagering and on gambling can be a great big help. So I urge you to go there right away. So let's go back to the Atlantic article now. Front page, cover story. The Atlantic is the ace of spades. Well, let's talk about the reference points that were used in this article. They went all the way back to George Washington, right?
Yeah, they did.
In fact, they went farther than that, didn't they, Alan?
Yeah, well, yes. This author, McKay Coppins, went back to Aristotle. Basically talking about there's a long history of accumulated wisdom over thousands of years that gambling comes with a social stigma at the very least. He says that Aristotle saw it as an impediment to an ethical life. St. Augustine saw it as an invention of the devil. And Warren Buffett saw it as a tax on the ignorant. and then he gets to George Washington.
From Augustine to Warren Buffett. That's pretty broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Gambling in America has been discouraged for hundreds of years. In 1794, a Pennsylvania law prohibited cockfighting, cards, dice, billiards, bowling, shuffleboard, horse racing, or any other type of gambling. George Washington has a quote. He warned that every possible evil could be tied to gambling. It is the child of avarice, the brother of iniquity, and the father of mischief.
Wow.
I guess he didn't like it, huh?
These quotes have been around for a long time, and we've actually taken these quotes into the marketplace in many ways as we have struggled mightily, and with God's help. And so it's been a fair fight.
Yeah.
The gambling industry, whenever we fought them in a state, usually outspends us 40 to 100 to 1. But it's been a fair fight because the truth's on our side.
What are the odds?
So we're not complaining because they're rich and influential and powerful and have a lot of people subjugated to their way of thinking. Our line is simple: gambling and good government don't mix.
And I feel for the purposes of this conversation, it needs to be mentioned that, Rob, the Lord led you away from a gambling addiction over 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we're not just a bunch of talking heads around here. You know the toll that it takes on the soul.
I live the life, and And the thing about it was a nightmare for me, but it was also a nightmare for my family.
There you go. Sure.
And I realized that. And I'm thankful if there's anything there's plenty of things to be thankful for through that process. But one of them is the fact that I got into that mess before I was married, before I had kids. I was able to just screw up a lot faster than most people, and did it at an amazing and alarming pace.
Well, this is personal to all of us because of that story, and I just wanted to make that point. We've talked about that on past programs, Dave, but I thought it was important to bring up today.
Always, Wayne, and thank you. Now, we ended our last statewide ballot fight with the gambling industry in the year 2009, and it was in the state of Ohio, and we lost an initiative in the state of Ohio, a constitutional amendment that was done in an off election year. And the reason that we lost it is because after having won multiple other battles, both in the legislature and on the state ballot, being outspent 40-1 and others against some of the most notable players in that particular state, the gambling industry, they got smarter. And what they did is first off, they decided to run it in an off election year. And secondly, they decided to buy all the Republicans before the election started. They bought their consultants. They bought their former state chairman. When I mean bought, I mean writing $1 million checks.
Doesn't seem
They
quite
hired
fair.
all the law firms. They basically bought out anybody who could be used against them. And the entire Republican base of support that we had for years, and it wasn't just that we had Republicans, we had one of the most multicultural, bipartisan, and Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Black, White, Hispanic, Asian, American, Natives, Indians. We had left, right, liberal, conservatives in this because they know it was wrong. But after year after year after year, the gambling coalition wore down the opposition, and they took just enough of it away when they bought out the Republican Party and the Republican leadership. And then they deluged us 100-1 on money in an off election year, and they won. The very next thing they did in that state was when they got a pro-gambling governor elected in John Kasich, the Republican, they came by and completely rewrote their constitutional amendment. In statute, the legislature rubber-stamped it, and the governor created the mechanism by which they could override the Constitution and by statute give the gambling industry everything else they wanted that they didn't get in their constitutional struggle. And it was all done through Republican leadership.
So no simple law will touch this issue.
And no party has the courage to stand up against the industry.
What was interesting is in Ohio, they passed that statewide amendment. And to do it, they had to gather hundreds of thousands of signatures, get on the ballot, got it done. Well, when they got it done, they put the exact land plots that these casinos would open in the Constitution. So the business plan's in the Constitution. Well, one of those land plots that was in the state capital in Columbus, Ohio, the business owners, and one very large business owner down there that owned a lot of land, did not like where the Columbus casino was going to be. So the gambling industry wanted to move that. Well, you can't move it without a vote of the people, and you got to go through the Constitution. And we were like, good, go get all the signatures. You're going to have to spend. No, the Republicans in the General Assembly bent over backwards for them.
Rubber stamped it.
Passed a joint resolution that it would go on the spring ballot before the ink had even dried on the constitutional amendment that could change the land plot. Now, they would have done that for no one else. But they did it for the gambling industry, who proved that they had ownership in this state.
Because they waved enough money in their faces. Right.
Well, and they have become the most powerful lobby in that big Midwestern state. And this is going on state after state. Now, the gambling industry doesn't need to be in all 50 states. They're picking off the ones they want the most. And they don't have to control every legislature. They just control enough to get what they need and what they want. Just like eventually, as they now have the NCAA surrounded, then they have them surrounded. All right. And the sports book companies, the legal and illegal bookies, are basically reaping huge benefits off of people's addiction to March Madness and college basketball and the playoff systems in college football. And by the way, you have to ask yourself, what would possess the NCAA to walk into the situations they've walked into, knowing that this, I don't know what beast you could liken the gambling industry to, is literally walking up outside their doors, waiting to pounce upon them. When you add the portal system and the nil system of financing, and then you add the national playoffs on football, all right? I mean, they're making it easy for the gambling industry to basically call all the shots. And then the gambling industry will get inside the walls of the NCAA by finding ways to use their money and leverage and power and alumni to see that certain people who make decisions in the NCAA are pro-gambling. You say, that could never happen. They took over the Republican Party. Well, that was just in Ohio. No. Who was their biggest contributor nationally for years? Sheldon Adelson, who owns the biggest casino in the world. Excuse me, I think the current president we have used to own a casino.
Well, the casino owners were some of the largest, made the largest contributions to Republican presidential primary candidates over the past handful of election cycles.
So what would the fix be? A politician looking a donor in the face from the gambling industry and just saying no? Is that the fix?
You tell them no. Yeah, it's that simple. I mean, I think and some people are just probably saying, wait a minute here, you're telling someone they can't gamble? No one's busting down doors and saying you can't play cards with your friends. No one's saying, I mean, what we're saying is, when you look at the gambling entities around the country, whether let's talk about sports gambling or state-sponsored lotteries that now how many of the states have, when you run those numbers, especially the state lottery numbers, the largest amount of money spent per capita is spent in each state in the poorest zip codes. So the people that are being subsidized are the ones that are gambling the most. And when it comes to sports gambling, no one ever envisioned the thought that it would be at everyone's fingertips. We're talking about sports gambling. There's some states that have full-blown authorized casino gambling on phones. You can do electronically from the comfort of your couch. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Wayne, I can tell you, I can tell you right where I was standing in Franklin, Tennessee, when I got a phone call one day from a consultant from another state in the Midwest who said, we're working on this project together on a certain public policy issue. We know you care intimately about it, that your organization has been involved, and we're looking for to work together. And there's a donor who is very much committed to this idea, and they want to send you a bunch of money to help. And I'm here as the bridge builder. What do we do? How can we make this happen? And I said, tell Mr. Adelson. Tell Mr. Adelson that my answer wasn't no. My answer was the two-word no.
Yeah. The famous Tennessee two-word no, right?
Very good.
So it is possible to say no.
So yes, when people call and they come knocking, you tell them
Hades,
no.
No. Right. Got it.
You tell them no. Because once you tell them yes, you never get out.
This may seem like a small thing, but one thing that bothers me is not only seeing all the advertisements on television for all the sports betting apps, but how it's permeating even the on-air discussion by the announcers of the game and the analysts of the game. It's all couched in betting language now.
You know,
it is. Al Michaels used to hint at that, and it was a real inside baseball back in 30 years ago when we'd be watching, and he would hint at it, and no one knew what he was talking about because no one was betting on it, but he would make a statement, and of course I was betting on it, so it got my attention. But you're right, Wayne, now it's talked about, and one of the reasons for that, and I'll tell you this, here's the deal. Dave hit on this with the NCAA. You may have donors that donate millions of dollars to universities. Okay? They don't gamble a lot on games, but they may bet $50 or $100 on a game. There's a reason that college football teams still try and score late in the game of blowouts now. There's a reason. And the reason is because they use the line, good teams win, great teams cover. And that means cover the spread.
Right.
So that's why they're doing it, because they want people to have that joy. Watch arenas that are half empty on blowout basketball games hanging on the edge of their seat for the last minute when the outcome's been decided. It's because of the point spread.
You know, as an illustration of how far we've gone in such a blink of an eye time, Pete Rose, does anybody remember it was maybe 30 years ago when Pete Rose was banned for life from the Baseball Hall of Fame and this, that, and the other because he gambled? And he said, yeah, sure, I gambled. Everybody. And as far as I can remember, everybody was horrified. I can't believe Charlie Hustle would gamble and all this sort of stuff. I think we owe his family an apology. Is he now admitted into the Baseball Hall of Fame? I know he's passed on.
Now, not never, right, Wayne?
No.
What hypocrisy. Oh, my goodness.
So, great point. You know, Wayne, we lost that last fight in a statewide ballot initiative in 2009 in Ohio, and that was a tough night. Rob had to deliver a speech in Columbus, and I had to deliver one in Cleveland. And before the media that we had worked with since 1988. It's an amazing thing is most of the State House News Corps, from the time we started in 1988 to the time we finished, quietly off the record, they did their job. They were fair to both sides, but we knew that they knew that they had been persuaded that good gambling and good government don't mix. We knew that they knew that there were going to be terrible things that would happen in the political process because of the influence of the gambling world that would have. And that has come true over and over and over again. We knew, and they knew, that Ohio State University was at risk. The NCAA was at risk. We knew because, Jeff mentioned Pete Rose, because of a guy named Nelson Rose. Nelson Rose is one of the leading academic scholars in regards to the gambling industry and gambling law. And he issued a paper in 1994 in which he said that gambling is like a giant red balloon. You can only put so much air in it before it will pop. And that's the history of gambling going back to the founding of our country. The gambling industry takes, and gets so big until so many people's lives are destroyed that people finally say, we got to get rid of these people because they're killing us. And he said, guaranteed, once the modern gambling industry in its third wave, which really began with the legalization of gambling in Vegas and then expanded through Atlantic City, and now we are all gambling all time, 24 hours everywhere. We're almost at the edge of the space that the balloon can do. It is going to explode. Well, guess what? From 2009 for 15, so it'll be 17 years, right, Rob? For 17 years, we have been watching the air go in this balloon. And now you can see, finally, the Atlantic wakes up, front page story. They send a guy out for a year to play the sports books, and he loses $10,000. Comes back realizing 98% of everybody who participates loses. Problem is, what happens when 98% of the people have got those apps on their phone?
Yeah.
It's going to blow up, man.
Yeah.
It's going to blow up.
All right. We've defined the problem. What's the solution?
Well, the solution is multiple. Number one, here's a great idea. And Rob, you tell me. My first idea is walk away. This stuff will ruin your mind. It will take your soul, and it will bankrupt your family.
It's always interesting to me with gambling. The people that I don't. If there's people that drink alcohol, I think every person that drinks alcohol would be the first to say, listen, this could become a problem in my life. I've seen this could become a problem in many people's lives. They're willing to admit doing a little bit could create a big problem. Everyone that, when you have alcohol, it could get out of control. The interesting part is for gambling, I feel like people don't say that. They're like, oh, no, I can handle it. It'll never get out of control for me.
Oh, the gambling industry says 80% of the people in the country think it's a fine thing.
I'll be able to handle it. And that part amazes me is they don't view it as a threat. That's what amazed me about this Atlantic article is would they send him in to a bar to have, if he's never drank before, have whiskey every day after work? Would they, send him to do marijuana? I think this was
here's 10 grand. Go get stoned for as many days as the 10 grand can hold you, and then tell us how to feel.
I think this was a risky proposition. I'd like to come back 5 years from now and be like, hey, Have you been tempted again? Because he talks about going to Florida for Thanksgiving, and Florida didn't have the apps that he was using, so he had a little bit of withdrawal.
Wow. It reminds me of that documentary Super Size Me, where the guy says, I'm going to eat McDonald's every day for a month, or I forget how long it was. Every day for a year, every meal. And it destroyed his health to do it.
It would.
All right, so Wayne, number 1, walk away. Number 2, mothers of the world unite. All right, because men are too stupid to get their way out of this thing. We need our mothers. We need mothers and grandmothers to unite. How can you unite? Number 1, you pray. Yep. Pray like crazy. All right. Number 2, it is time for mothers of the world to unite, hire lawyers, and sue the pants off this industry. Because the liability that is involved in attending this is an addictive substance. The industry knows it. They have said so over and over again. This article in the Atlantic acknowledges the fact that 90% of the revenue comes from 10% of the customers, and those are the people they're looking at. We made that same proposition with the CEO of Harrah's at the National Press Club at an event sponsored by the Pittsburgh Tribune, and I sat there with the head of Harrah's and said, "What percentage of your gamblers give you what percentage of your business?" He said, "Gee, I don't know."
I bet he didn't.
Who are we kidding? 20% fund the whole deal. The whole game is to get these people addicted. They do it by methodology. They should be sued for creating addicts by design.
They're nothing but a cartel. They're a cartel.
Well, and we've said this before on this topic, but think of any movie you've ever seen that features a gambling company or gambling casino. Are they ever the good guy? Is there ever a movie where the gambling industry is good? That tells you
or they come to the rescue, you mean? Like they coming over the hill and rescue the poor mother with her starving children.
Or even the protagonist,
No,
and you're
create
supposed to be on their side. Yeah, it just never happens.
And then we've got to get legislative action that begins to throw them out. Now, that's going to take courageous politicians. These things will happen, though. Wayne, this is going to happen. This has happened before. America has cleaned up her act in the past. Now, we made a quote about George Washington. I can remember when we make this quote in the past, people would say, "Oh, how funny, you hypocrites. Don't you know that the Washington Monument was funded by gambling?" You know what? That's true.
What?
Yes. The Washington Monument was funded by a charitable raffle to raise money, like a GoFundMe deal, and with a charity raffle connection to it. That's true. But the thing is the ticket prices were so high that no poor people could participate, nor could middle-class people. We're not saying that we can't have a raffle or you can't do GoFundMe and give people rewards or prizes. No, we're not saying that stuff. This is completely different. But I think it's an interesting point of history, and I'm not afraid to bring up the hypocrisy in it. It is kind of funny. So, Wayne, we walk away, number 1. Number 2, moms unite. Moms must unite. We've got to litigate the pants off these people. All right. And number 3, we've got to find politicians that are willing to stand up and say, it's time for a repeal. We're close. Now, we have been for us, it's been 17 years watching the air go in this balloon. It's going to pop. And I'll tell you when I wonder and only God knows how this is going to work out in all the details. But I wonder when we start to lose major sports programs because of the corruption of athletes, coaches, athletic directors, and others participating and going over the line, and suddenly your favorite NCAA team is out for 2 years because of gambling infractions.
Whoa.
Now all of a sudden, when Brutus and all the mascots of the world are suddenly in prison, all right, with the NCAA, so to speak, will people finally wake up and say, we got to put an end to this? We got to stop this. This is crazy.
Just as I said before, we look back and people used to smoke on airplanes. That's what I think is going to happen to sports gambling on phones. It will eventually be driven out of our culture.
And we have to stop our conversation right there as well. Thanks for listening. For more on this issue, please use our website, thepublicsquare.com.
The Public Square is a broadcast service of the American Policy Roundtable.
If you're a regular listener to The Public Square, you've heard of the release of the new book, Jesus, His Story. The response has been remarkable. Why the excitement? This is a sample of what readers are saying. Arranging the 4 Gospels into chronological order put the life of Jesus into perspective. Thank you. One told us, after reading Jesus' story, I knew this would make a great graduation gift for my nephew. Another said, I got my copy of Jesus' story and read it over the weekend. I want to order 6 more. Can't wait to give them to my friends and family. Interested? You can call us at 1-800-522-8683 or order online. Take a fresh look at the greatest story ever told, Jesus, His Story, at thepublicsquare.com.